Hey everybody, this is 22 Tiger Dude and welcome to Animation Domination Reviews. So Fox took a 1-month hiatus from reviewing the premieres because February has been a busy month. We had the Academy Awards, we had the Winter Olympics, we had the Super Bowl. So it's back now, a new schedule for the premieres. What? Does this mean that I will no longer be the first premiere of The Simpsons? No, I'm sorry, Homer. No! I am gonna get that bomb! Calm down, Homer. Calm down. Calm down. Okay. Homer, I need you to calm down. Go lay over there and drink some coconut juice to put you to sleep and calm. And Bob, screw you. Yeah, let's just get this started. So now we're going to start off with the Bob's Burgers episode, The Frond Files. So this episode is about when Bob and Linda visit the kids' Principal Frond, and apparently he wanted to show Bob and Linda's reports that the children had to do called Why I Love Wagstaff. But the reports are to be known as offensive and not very creative. This episode is basically us going through each of the reports. Act 1, we go through Louise's. Act 2, we go through Jean's. And in the final and third act, we go through Tina. Now, just straight off the bat, I'm going to say that's one of the most creative things I've ever heard from Bob's Burgers. Does that creative concept live up to the episode's potential? Hell yes. I love this episode. This is the best Bob's Burgers episode of the season by far. This episode was just so terrific in every level. It's very unique, it's creative, funny as hell. I laughed at so many moments. And yes, it even does have the poop humor, but that actually surprisingly worked, especially for what we were going through all of these children's reports. All of the kids' reports are so creative, they're wacky, they're weird, they're stupid, but it takes stupidity in such a unique and creative way. And I just really loved everything about this episode. I honestly don't have any flaws. And yes, it does have poop humor, but even that worked, especially if it's Gene. Come on. Gene, we all know the character Gene is. He's really immature, and Gene is just basically Gene. So I would say the poop humor that was added in the Gene portion really worked. This is just such a funny as hell episode. By far the best episode of the season. I really can't stress enough about that. It's so terrific. I love the episode, The Frond Files. By far one of the most creative and unique things the show has ever come up with. Excellent job. Excellent. Great job, Bob's Burgers. I'm not crazy about you, but you impressed me with this episode. This one gets, by far, a fucking 10 out of 10 because it's that great. I love it. Now we are on to the Simpsons episode, Diggs. We actually have 2 Simpsons premieres. There's another one. The first Simpsons episode of this night is called Diggs. And the episode actually guest stars Daniel Radcliffe. That's right. Harry Potter is in this episode. That's already one of the pluses. I'm just going to say that right now. The plot to this episode is about when Bart meets this kid named Diggs, voiced by Daniel Radcliffe. He has such fascination with falcons, and he actually wants to fly himself. He's totally different, and Bart also becomes friends with him when everyone, including Milhouse, abandons him when he meets a frog because he owed Homer $20 and he needed the money to pay him back. So I gotta say, this really is a fantastic episode. I loved almost every moment of the episode. It's very well put. It's really great. And there's really a nice touch of heart into the episode. I thought the writers really blended all of those elements so well. And the character Diggs himself, voiced by Harry motherfucking Potter himself, he was really good. I thought Daniel Radcliffe did a great job just bringing the character Diggs to life. And the whole plot with him wanting to fly and just pretty much be the Falcon, and how he just has such passion for falcons is what makes that character he voiced just so damn unique. It's just plain brilliant. It's a well thought out plot. There are a lot of funny moments. The episode has a great message about don't be ashamed of being friends with someone that's different than others, because there's nothing wrong with someone being different from others. That's what makes people like that so unique, especially the ones that aren't afraid to be different. Those are the kind of people you truly just have to respect, and I'm really glad this episode really speaks out that way. For the most part, a very well paced episode. The only problems I did have with Diggs though is that a couple of moments it was a little rushed. I didn't like how the kids abandoned Bart, especially Milhouse. That did bug me. And I have to say the ending, not only was it rushed, it was a cop-out. I was pretty disappointed with how the episode ended. It just kind of like slaps you across the face with BS. And also the Diggs character, you just know what he's going to do. He's just going to run off. And the episode was just so creative, so great. And then it just has to reach to that pretty low point of just not getting that creative anymore. Diggs, I am going to give it a 9 out of 10. Now let's see how the next Simpsons Premiere compares with this episode. The second Simpsons Premiere of the night is called The Man Who Grew Too Much. The plot of this episode is about when Marge does a church activity where she has to talk to a teen abstinence group, but the teens just aren't taking Marge too seriously, so Marge has to figure out a way to get their attention to talk about the sexual intercourse. And also, guess who's back? Sideshow Bob, and this time he's actually trying to be good. He actually teams up with Lisa, and they're doing their little experiment with the genetically modified organisms. That's the main plot. The Marge plot is like the subplot. And I'm gonna say this, while I really enjoyed the living hell out of the Simpsons Premiere Diggs, this one, it's much better. This is one of my favorite episodes of the season, as well as being one of the best episodes of The Simpsons overall. I loved every moment of the episode. It's definitely one of the best episodes with Sideshow Bob appearing, because it seems like every time Sideshow Bob appears, that episode seems to be pretty weak. But this one is actually one of his strongest ones, and it might possibly be the strongest Sideshow Bob episode I've seen in a very long time. It's great to see Sideshow Bob and Lisa just working this little experiment together. That had me fully invested, and it kept me highly entertained. I love the Marge plot as well. I thought it was really funny, and just how things were going down in that plot without spoiling anything or going into too much detail with it. But it definitely provided a lot of laughs, and I really loved it. I dug the writing. The humor is top-notch and hilarious. How the Marge plot actually connected with the main plot towards the end of the episode, I thought that was really clever and very well handled. And I also have to point out that the very last scene of this episode showed Ned and Edna actually doing their dancing. But it turns out that Ned was actually dreaming about it, and he's all like, I sure do miss that laugh. He looks at the picture of Edna, and then Nelson happened to be there going, ha ha, I miss her too. That last scene of this episode paid a tribute to Edna, because the character, as we all know, is retired because Marcia Wallace, may she rest in peace, passed away. It's nice that last scene of this episode basically marks the final appearance by Edna. I'm not gonna lie, I actually got emotional for a couple of hours after watching this episode because that last scene with Edna and just how they really paid tribute to that, yeah, it really hit me. I give this episode a 10 out of 10. It's perfect and a great tribute to Edna. Rest in peace to the character, and rest in peace to the voice actress, Marcia Wallace. Now I'm here to review the Family Guy episode, Mom's the Word. So, this episode is about when Peter finds out from everyone, because they had a little intervention about Peter's mom, Thelma, passing away. Peter meets Thelma's best friend, Evelyn. They get together, and Peter sees Evelyn as a mother, but with Evelyn, well, things get a little twisty and turny there. Meanwhile, in the subplot, Brian tells Stewie about death and how everyone eventually is going to die. This makes Stewie really scared about death. So Brian decides to take Stewie to all of these religious churches and learn what people believe could happen after death. I did enjoy the Peter-Evelyn plot. By the time it reaches the middle, it starts to go downhill. And then once it reaches the ending, you're just all like, okay. Really? The ending to the Peter-Evelyn plot, by the way, is terrible. I hated it. And I even hated the ending of the episode itself. It was not funny at all. Most of the humor of the episode is not funny. And not only that, but it just got really awkward. I enjoyed the Brian-Stewie plot more. This episode does have a lot of strong messages about death and what could happen afterwards, your own faith, and I actually credit this episode for that. I really was really entertained. And I really liked that plot more than the main plot itself. I actually wish that was the main plot, because otherwise, if it was, this would have been a much more better episode. It also tells you to not be afraid of death, take advantage of life, make each day count, try to make it count, because you just don't know when you're going to die. You could die tomorrow. You could die in a month. You could die 2 years from now. We all don't know when we die, but when the time does come, we just have to be ready for that. And this episode does hit you with that kind of message, and that's definitely something I truly appreciate about this episode, and it's by far one of the strongest points, if not the strongest point of the episode. Mom's the Word was, it's okay. It does have problems like the Peter and Evelyn plot just getting more awkward and less interesting, having a horrible and abrupt ending, the execution in the few moments feeling so off, most of the humor not being very good, and especially near the beginning with Peter having these stomach problems where he has to go use the restroom. Yeah, those first like 5 minutes with that whole plot, that was not pretty to watch either. But it's not the worst episode I've seen. It just could have been a whole lot better. I am going to give Mom's the Word a 9 out of 10. Phyllis Diller, thank you for taking the time to voice Thelma Griffin. Rest in peace to Thelma Griffin, and as well as to the voice actress.